Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining our LinkedIn Live today. We are so ready for this topic. As you know, our LinkedIn Lives are very interactive. So if you do have questions throughout our time together, please be sure to include them into the comments section, and we will be moderating on our end. Now, we want to get right into it. We are excited to host Lisa Bragg on the topic of navigating achievement envy, bragging without backlash. Now, Lisa is the author of Bragging Rights, How to Talk About Your Work Using Purposeful Self-Promotion, and is also the founder of MediaFace. Lisa, welcome to our conversation today.
I'm so happy to be here and so honored to be with you. So you have been a longtime friend and a massive cheerleader and champion for me. So I thank you. Thank you so much.
You know I love our conversations, and we were talking earlier, we can probably go on for hours and hours. We are going to keep this to 30 minutes. We are going to try to include as many resources for those joining us live today in the comments section. And again, if you do have questions, please be sure to pop them in and we will get to as many as possible. So Lisa, we're going to get right into it. I have a few questions for you, and I want to start off with this one because when we think about achievement envy, what does it actually mean? So how would you define achievement envy, and how does it impact our personal lives, but also our professional lives? Over to you.
Oh, Rami, when we have that comparisonitis, I am looking at other people as I've joined this world of being an author, and I know you're an author too. It's like you compare, you look at stats, you see what other people are doing. In the workplace, you might be seeing someone who's maybe their career is moving faster than yours. In our personal life, it may be someone who seems to have it all because of all the beautiful pictures of social media. And so we start to compare and we feel discontent, and we also feel resentment towards their success. Has nothing to do. So that's where so much of it is about context of things. And that's where we feel negative. We feel that jealousy. We feel all those things that envy brings about for us. Now, I don't think we should get rid of envy because I think envy helps fuel us and move us forward. But we have to watch that achievement envy doesn't bring us back and hold us back because we're holding our achievements back. And one of the reasons often is because we're not talking about our own personal achievements to get the attention. So attention envy, achievement envy, I think I'm attaching it all together in my mind because a lot of it comes down to the attention that we're putting on what's happening because we're seeing their achievements. So is that clear as I get into this attention achievement realm right now this morning?
It is very clear. I'm already taking so many notes. What did you What did you just call that? I think
Comparisonitis. Yeah.
comparisonitis. I love that.
My father-in-law suffers from it big time.
Oh,
So,
we'll keep that
and
between us.
it's about farming
Yeah.
and who's wheat and who's corn. So it happens in every industry where we compare ourselves and compare what we have or what we're doing to others. And so that achievement envy comes in every single piece of our lives, but it's comparisonitis. Yeah,
And across industries, it sounds like.
exactly.
And can I add to what you're saying? Because what you're talking about, especially with social media and people posting their pictures, what we're comparing are our lowlights to someone else's filtered highlights. And it's like, okay, well, why are they living such a glamorous life? Or why are they living in this way? Why am I not happy? Or I don't look that happy? And the big part of that is you have no idea what that person is going through. You have no idea what's behind those curated pictures. And we really need to stop comparing. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
And very clear.
I think part of it too, though, Ramit, is that we have this and we're putting attention on them, right? We're looking and seeking them out, and we're not always articulating our strengths and our achievements. And so that's a big part of it is that so many of us are taught to be hidden gems. And so while other people are putting their highlight reel out into the world, so many of us are taught wait until someone asks you to show clips of your highlight reel. And so that's a bit of the challenge that we all face too.
Wait to be asked. And it's interesting because we're saying it's across industries, but it's also across age groups. Like I'm talking to my 8-year-old son about this as well, right? It doesn't really matter the age, that comparativeness is there. I want to get into your research because you've done quite a bit of research and it's fascinating. And your research found that most of us want to hear people brag. And this actually contradicts what we're told. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Who knew, right? We always were taught, and my last name is Bragg. So I think that's a big piece of why I got into this work. And I decided to do the research and make sure that it was global research. I was inspired by you, but also I wanted to make sure that it wasn't this white Canadian woman's story. And what does it look like in the world? And so the research showed that 85% of us really do want to cheer you on for your bragging. But let me define bragging first, because
Yes.
bragging is talking about one's success with pride. But the reframe is that pride is a big word. And pride also means justified self love. And so when we have it in that context, juxtaposed to self aggrandizement, that's that icky, that puffiness, that oh, I'm bigger than you kind of thing that we see on a lot on social media, especially when somebody's standing by a jet. That's not their jet. We feel that. And so that's a big issue with it. So 85%, they're right there cheering you on. I think it was 12% said they'd turn around and brag right back at you. And if the math finishes out, it's 3% that would just ignore you. So you know what? Let's ignore those other people, the 15%, and just go for the people that really want to celebrate our successes, see our achievements, and enjoy that with us.
There's so much to say here. First, I love what you just said, justified self love. I think that is incredibly powerful and an incredibly powerful way to reframe bragging. Now, the second piece to what you just said, you're talking about the 3%. And I have to talk about this with my keynotes where when we're talking about kind of emotional self regard and self confidence, it's like I can give you, Lisa, 100 pieces of feedback, and 98 could be great, fantastic, amazing. And then two would be not so great. And we focus on the two because it's negativity bias. There's a whole name for it. It's negativity bias. We focus on the two. So it's interesting because the 3% will ignore you, but oftentimes that's what we spend our energy and our time on, not the 85%, which is, I didn't even know that statistic, but 85% are wanting to cheer you on. And so maybe it's redirecting our energy and shifting to focus on that 85%.
And I shuddered and I made a little bit of movement animating myself on when you were saying that, the 2% or 3% of negative feedback, because that's what we get all riled up about. And we do. We put all of our focus, our attention, our energies on trying to convince people who we really maybe aren't for. Yes, we do need to hear things that are critical, and especially from trusted advisors that, we have those 3 or 4 people that we go to and say, hey, what did you think of my LinkedIn Live performance? And the rest of the people, the scrutiny, maybe we're not listening. We have a friend look at it, those kind of things. So we do need to hear feedback. But the point is that we need to focus on the people that want to hear our messages, want to see our successes, and not those people that clearly aren't paying attention anyway. So let's just leave them alone and refocus our energy.
And we don't know what they're going through. They might be preoccupied with their own stuff, and that could be why they're ignoring or they're dismissing. They actually might not even be aware of it.
Yeah.
Now, there's something that you say that challenges one thing that I believe, because I always say, and my team knows this, let your work speak for itself. And I believe that. And most people believe you should let your reputation speak for itself. Yet you challenge that. Tell me why.
Oh, so many of us were taught that, though. We were taught, put your head down, do good work, and eventually
Mhm.
someone will notice you, or be so good they can't ignore you. And so when we say those things, it keeps a lot of us hidden gems. So we're waiting. The challenge is that everyone, as you've already said, they're so busy. They're doing their own things. They have their own fires and their own ambitions to deal with. And so we're not the focus of the world. And so I think it's often that we think that everyone's looking at us all the time, and they're not. The spotlight effect. They're not paying in that much attention. And frankly, nobody cares about your future the way you do. And
Yes.
so that's why we need to talk about our successes. Back in the day, back when I mentioned my father-in-law as a farmer, but back when all of us were farmers, 90% of us were at one point on the farm. And then we moved into factories, but we didn't have to talk about our successes because we had our aunties and our nonas and all of our relatives, our grandmothers there to talk and say, yes, definitely let Ramit do this. Definitely do not let Lisa touch that. So we had our kin around us who knew what our strengths were. But in this world now, where we're exchanging ideas and this knowledge economy and whatever's about to happen next with all the technology, we need to let people know how we are meant to serve. And that's what it's really about. Because, would I love everyone to find my book and find me on the internet and say, oh, look, I found this hidden gem? They're not going to do it because everyone's so busy And there's so many other people out there who are actually frankly noisy. So I'm just trying to be the signal.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And in the aunties and the nonas, they were the referrals, right? And now in our world, those referrals or that referral system is quite different. And when we think about that, that is why we should be bragging. That is why we should be sharing our successes and our achievement, because that plays into this new referral system that we are working within. And I love that you mentioned the spotlight effect. I think that's important. And yeah, you're right. We are hidden gems. So maybe it's not just about letting your work speak for itself, but also talking about it. So thank you for clarifying that.
And I just want
Now,
to jump in one thing though,
yes,
Ramit, sorry.
always.
But it's because you know what? Anyone who's watching this, your work is already that good, right? So your work is already that good. I'm not saying hand out mediocre work, but I'm saying your work is already that good. You already deserve these things. You need to just let people now know that you want them, and then also how much you've already done and how you are meant to serve. So that I just add that to your point.
I think we just need to talk to you every Monday morning and just get us going for the week. So I love this. I've got two more questions. I just want to remind our audience, and again, thank you everyone for joining today. If you do have any questions, pop them into the comment section. I am going to be getting to them very shortly. My next question, Lisa, I think it is an incredibly important one. How do you brag in a way that is not obnoxious?
So first of all, make sure that it's in context. Sometimes we're with our family and friends, they just don't get what we do and what we're trying to achieve. So if you say you won $1 million client or $100,000 client or a $10 client, they don't understand what that means necessarily. And so to them, it might be off-putting, or that you won something. They might not get it because it's context based. And so first of all, understand your context, and also really think about what you want to achieve with this. Why do I want to talk about my successes? Have purpose. That's the whole point of that. It's purposeful, so that we're not exhausted doing it. And an easy way for us to get into it, well, first of all, brag to yourself first. We need to talk to ourselves and tell ourselves our achievements. I think that's one of the big ways. But if you have a challenge with bragging, one of the easiest ways is to say, because I won this award because, and then you can say my great team. But I'd rather you say, I won this award because I put the work in, or because I did whatever, so that we continue with that it's on us. And eventually, yes, we have to have bragitude. So it's a brag plus gratitude. But when we bring in the because word is that joiner, that's the secret sauce as we begin to talk about our strengths and flex that muscle and get used to being in that success position and talking about our achievements. That's where the word because is that secret. So try the word because, have your brag, the thing that you want to share with the world, because, and whatever it is. I'd love it to be about you in the second part. But if you want to jump to your team or that mentor or champion or that fourth grade teacher who is there to champion you, then so be it. But stand in your brags.
Stand in your. Do you understand how many things I am jotting down? The bragitude, I love that. Stand in your bragging. I often say we, right? I don't say we, because I fundamentally believe, like, my team, our team supports. See, I even changed my to our. The team supports everything that's done. But I like that. Stand in your brag. Thank you for that. Now, my last question is this one. How can companies, because we want to talk about women in the workplace, how can companies build a culture of appreciation and recognition to combat the downsides of achievement envy?
Yeah, so realize, yes, there is no I in team, but there is I in credit. So
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting that we end up in a squabbling match of who gets credit there, but set up a culture where people can get recognition. Recognition is one of the values for a lot of people. They may not realize it and articulate it, but recognition is something a lot of us are conditioned to want. So making sure that you are recognizing and not just looking for the people that are schmoozing with you all the time. So set up a culture where you're allowing and helping people to articulate their strengths, to brag with you, and making sure that people feel comfortable with it. So a lot of us don't feel comfortable with it. Like, we are taught, be a hidden gem. So how do you help your team be comfortable with it? Asking people, having one-to-one conversations, asking them to fill out a brag book. So that's where they're writing down all the awesome things that they've done, because then you get to see, as a leader, you're getting to see what your team thinks is awesome and not just what you consider as the metric, because that might also help you to realize you're missing out on some strengths. opportunities with that person when they're saying, hey, here's the achievements I think I've succeeded in. And then also, how does that reflect on the world of work and what I'm actually supposed to achieve? So I think looking at it deeply and asking people. And another thing I'd share, and I have a whole chapter in the book about how leaders can support their teams to brag, but asking your teams to say, here's what I achieved, here's how I'm great. And then also, here's how I'm grateful for another employee. So this is how I'm grateful for Ramit and Marisol and all the people who are on the staff and helping us out today. But I am great, but I'm also grateful for the people who work alongside me in this organization.
Oh, I love that. And I want to add to what you just said, because when we talk about that recognition piece, some things that organizations miss is it's not just about another recognition program. It's about understanding how your team wants to be recognized. And with some of the research that I've done, oftentimes it's a simple acknowledgement or a simple thank you. Not everybody wants an award. Not everyone wants to be in the company newsletter, or wants that cupcake or whatever it might be. We want to recognize the way in which people want to be recognized, but that's understanding and asking those questions.
Yeah, that personalization really does count because not everyone needs another squishy ball or a pen with their name on it. So we
Yes.
need to have that. And sometimes, often, it is just that thank you, I see you. People want to be seen and be heard. It's fundamental to the human condition. And so often it is just that verbal thank you, I see you, I appreciate you.
That acknowledgement and validation. I love it. We've got lots of questions coming in from our audience. And again, if you do have questions, pop them in. I wish I could continue on with mine, but let's go to our audience questions. Okay. For a long time, I was a hidden gem. I thought hard work alone was enough. How do I shift this mindset?
Really, it's about letting the world know you are of service. And that's the biggest mindset. It's when you don't talk about your successes, then the person's going to go down the hall to that mediocre person that why are they going to them? It's because they're letting them know how they are meant to serve. But I'm here. How come they can't see me? Everyone's too busy. So we really need to start talking about our successes and talk about them to the people that we want to see us. And I often talk about, instead of broadcasting, because we think we have to get really loud and really be really, animated like I am, but we don't have to be that way. We can be introverts and really narrowcast who we want to talk to. So instead of thinking always broadcast, think narrowcast. Who is that one person that I really need to talk to, and start there?
That's interesting. And I'm kind of even thinking about, we have weekly status meetings at our organization, and we talk about kind of what's coming up for the week, what we're working on, where we might need help and so on. And it updates everyone. But I also think adding on to it, like what we've accomplished, it's not just always looking forward. It's like, okay, we did all these things, and taking that little moment to brag. So I love that. I love this next question as well. What does giving yourself permission to brag look like? Where do you start?
Yeah, and I mentioned already, brag to yourself first. So that's where I want you to start. So start analyzing today. You don't have to go back in time because it's so hard to go back in time. We forget so quickly what we've done. But starting today, write down those compliments that you should give yourself. So nobody gave you a compliment because you might be working remotely. They don't see the awesome things that you're doing. Write it down. Write it down. Have it there so that you can say, well, you know what? I did all these things. I forgot. And it's not that journaling, well, it's so important for us, but it's just really writing down in a smile file or whatever you want to call it. Brag book would be best, but have it there so that you can remember all the compliments that you've given. But start giving yourself compliments. I know it sounds cheesy, but the world is too busy. They're not seeing what you're doing. So write down those things that matter to you. And when you look back, I promise you this, you'll see a red thread to those compliments because you're picking up on these things that are going on, and you might see something that might help the future you.
Oh, I love that. And that reflection piece is important. And it goes back to what you said earlier in terms of a strategy you can use. I'm great because, and I'm grateful for. So that great and grateful, I think, really plays well together. Okay, this is an interesting question. What is the cost of remaining invisible?
Wow, that's a great question. And my research showed for some people, it was millions of dollars. One woman reported to me that she knows she lost a client that would have brought her a lot of money. And then she saw who won and how much they brought, but she wasn't able to articulate her strengths, wasn't willing to, expected more probing questions. And then another person who was talking about her career, she knows that she thought she was safe. She's coming back from maternity leave. And in Canada, we have a nice extended one. And she thought she was going to be continued to be pushed along the system, but she wasn't able to articulate her strengths. And so she felt like she didn't end up where she wanted to. She was put on a C track instead of, not a C as in C-suite, but like a D track the wrong way instead of where she wanted to go. And so because she wasn't articulating her strengths, she thought they were still looking out for her. One thing I think with, talking about achievement envy is that we end up with obstructors and facilitators. And this goes to this question is, when we're starting out, everyone's a facilitator of our career. How many people wanted to help you when you were starting out? But as we climb and we go into these jobs where there's fewer and fewer opportunities, more people show up as obstructors. And so that's a little bit of it. So the cost, though, the question, it could be life-changing if you're not out there bragging and talking about your successes.
It can be life-changing. And even the fact the millions of dollars, right? Do you think, I'm going to add on to that question, do you think that women in the workplace, they wait until they are fully qualified for the role, or they're almost perfect in terms of like, okay, I did this and it has to be perfect, and then I can share, and then I can brag? Do we kind of stand in our own ways?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That perfectionism that I have to have not just 100, I'm going to use sports, I have to have 110% of this to get the job. And so many of us are making just lateral moves. And research has been done in the past about this, where it's in the book. I don't have it off the top of my head, but I think it's like we need to have, 75%, 100% of the qualifications and the nice to haves, where men will often go just on 45%. And a lot of that is because we think as women about our reputations, what we've done. We want to make sure we have the rubric filled out, where men will go on the promise, the bet of their future selves. And so that's a mind shift. Yes, we have to have solid reputation. So this is what's going to make you even more amazing, having your solid reputation, but then also betting on the future you. Bet on yourself and know where you want to go. Market to the future you instead of worrying about the past and making sure we have all the boxes ticked off. I love ticking those boxes too, but we have to move past that. I try to say 75% is our new 110%. I think that's something I try to do with shipping things out and getting things out, because I do have that perfectionist tendency too.
I do too. I love this, bet on our future selves, right? That, I think that's incredibly powerful. Okay, what do you think is the biggest hurdle in overcoming our fear of being seen, and how can we overcome this?
The biggest hurdle, I think it's that we don't want to be judged. And we, going through, or that tall poppy that you so eloquently have done so much research on, we don't want to people be that person that gets chopped down because other people feel jealous of us. We don't want to be that person that feels that. But that holds us back. And that's also in a culture where we're not amplifying and cheering other people on. So it's collaboration over competition. So I think we're really worried about that part of it, the tall poppy. I think we're also worried about that ick factor, bragging in the research. They're concerned because bragging, for so many of us, we've been conditioned to say that bragging is icky. That's a very scientific word for all of us, right? It's icky. But that's the way we feel about it, because cultural norms, social norms across the world have said, the tallest nail gets hammered down, or, don't put, it should never go across your lips and things like that. We've been told for so long, but that's in the past, that was part of the really since the industrial revolutions. And now we're like in the fourth or fifth, we're into this new time. So we have to leave some of those cultural norms, the social norms in the past to really succeed in this new era that we're in.
Thank you for that. And speaking of ick, here's my next question. Could you share some phrases that can help me frame my brags that don't feel ick?
Oh, some phrases. Yeah. So it's starting off, so that's where, so I mentioned bragitude. So here's my brag plus gratitude. So that's what bragitude, I did not make that up, but here's my brag. So I'm really, so, what some people would even think me being on the show is me, wow, look how great I am. I'm on a show. And so that's like, some people feel like, or the newsletter. Some people don't want to be in the newsletter because people are, oh, they're going to think I'm thinking so big. I'm so big now because I'm in the newsletter. I don't want to have that profile, because we have this cultural conditioning in our minds to not make it about ourselves and to only make it about our teams. So brag plus a gratitude. So say something that you're successful, something great, and then add in how you're thankful to your team. So that's the fast one I can think of. There are scripts in the book that are totally just blipping in my mind, and I'll write a few in the chat for you because they're just totally, I have them that are so good. Oh, here's one. People tell me that. There we go. People tell me that, and that softens the brag. I'm proud to have supported my client by, and it's a privilege to have. So whatever it is. I also want to make sure that when you win an award, please don't say you're humbled. So many of us are already so humble. And so we really water down our success instead of talking about it and standing in it. So please don't say, I'm humbled to win this award. I'm honored to win this award, and then whatever else you want to write, but stand in the strength of it. When we're too humble off the top, that's actually dismissing a lot of the qualities of the award. It's dismissing the other candidates, the other competitors, and it's dismissing the judges for choosing you. So watch how you use humbled in some of the awards that you're winning, because I know I want to see those awards out there.
And I see that on LinkedIn all the time. Good thing LinkedIn has an edit function. So if you've put I'm humbled, you can change that to honored. I love that. And I did want to mention, we have posted a link to your book. Again, for those who are joining, it's called Bragging Rights: How to Talk About Your Work Using Purposeful Self-Promotion. Another question: how do you handle jealousy and navigate the dynamics of professional achievement while bragging?
Yeah. So the jealousy part, and that's where, it comes back to your tall poppy work. Like, it's really understanding it's on them and it's not on you. So it's on the other person. And so that you can only go in your strengths. It is a disservice for you to hide your strengths, to hide your ability because of the other person. And I think that's the big challenge. We are so afraid because we want to be so collegial. We want to always make it about the team. But there's always a person that wins. Peter, he's the team lead and he wins us. We win the award, we win the account. And then Peter goes on pat leave. He goes away, or he goes on vacation. He goes on vacation for a month. Wouldn't that be nice? And we do the work. And then Peter comes back at the last minute and he brings coffee and donuts. Well, who do you think gets the team accolades? Who do you think gets the high five? Peter. And so we don't stand in our achievements enough and accept them. And so we're so worried about the backlash instead of saying, there may be backlash, but I have to have the strength to go forward. Often, if there is backlash, you're starting to go into that place where you are going to have a big jump. So just be prepared as you do something and stand in your greatness. There may be some backlash to it. And I think when we know that it might be coming, not to be afraid, but just to be aware. And then you're able to move forward faster through it. I think that's one of the things. Also, understanding shame and guilt a little bit more. And I do get into that in the book, but understand what shame means versus guilt. I think that helps us a lot to feel like, okay, I feel a little bit of shame in this moment, but how do I move past it and understand that it's of service to people?
How do I move past it? Thank you. And you've answered a few other questions that have come in that talk about or are asking about that backlash piece. And again, it goes back to stand in your brag. So we've got another comment from a viewer who's saying that they are loving this. So fascinating question. Does tapping into any particular masculine or feminine energy make a difference in your opinion, Lisa?
Ooh, really good question. I went into this thinking it was just a woman's thing. I did. When I was writing this, I'm a white Canadian woman. I thought it was just me. And that's where I wanted to really reach out and understand what the world context was. I find women are really excited about the book and understand it. I find men are the ones who are gifting it because they really want to champion others along. And a lot of men are saying it's also them. I'm finding that it's also very much intersectional. Like it depends on socioeconomic, how comfortable you feel. So it goes across so many layers of who we are, and to define it as the one ideal reader and the one who really wants this. I think the feeling, though, it's the smart skills of collaboration over competition, articulating your strengths, cheering other people on, and making sure that there's more pie for all of us instead of less pie. So I think I am tapping into all that. And I think it's really all those messages are the messages of today and the future that we need to have. And so Yeah, I think I'm guilty of making sure that it's infused. But the reality is, so many of us, no matter how you identify, how you are in the world, it does apply to you. So there's very few people that actually have mastered it in the extent. I'm a work in progress. I come back to my book. I know that sometimes I'm a hidden gem, and I need to make sure that I'm out there spreading the message of all the work that I'm doing and letting people know my keynotes and letting people know about the book and all the things. Otherwise, they're just not going to know about me. So you take a step forward and maybe a step back, and you take 3 steps forward, and you may take 1 step back, and you keep going. So
And we are happy to amplify that message as well. I wish we could there's so many more questions. I wish we had time to get through them all. And to your point about the pie, it's also understanding that the pie is not just this big, right? Like the pie, it can expand. And just because someone else got a piece of that pie doesn't mean less pie for you. So thank you for that piece. What an incredible, high energy, motivating, inspiring conversation. If you're not following Lisa Bragg, I do encourage you to do so. Again, grab a copy of her book as well. I'm so lucky to have a signed copy. So thank you for that, Lisa. Definitely worth a read. Thank you to everyone who's joined. What incredible questions. Our next LinkedIn Live will be on Monday, August 19th, and we're going to be focusing on the science of sleep and dreaming and workplace stress dreams. It's going to be fascinating. Until then, please take good care of yourselves and of each other. Lisa, thank you once again. Always a pleasure.
thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.